of you who are joining us on Zoom, and then also for those of you who are joining on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. It's been amazing to have these talks going. We've been getting, across all the platforms, over 300 people that's been tuning in every day in various channels and stuff. And so it's very exciting to continue to have these talks going and, meeting new faces, seeing new names, and also welcoming those who've been with us from the beginning too. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Yia Vang. I will be your host for the call today with Alicia Price as our speaker. The Eros platform is a global community dedicated to exploring the power of Eros as a deeper path to connection, creativity, and personal growth. Today, we'll be with Alicia Price talking about the idea of the next Sangha will be a Buddha. And she will tell us a little bit more about what that means and how that relates to your own practice and orgasmic meditation. Alicia is a 18-year own practitioner. Prior to orgasmic meditation, she lived in an ashram in India where she realized that something was missing, and that was her sexuality. Determined to leave no part of herself behind, she sought One Taste, where she trained as an erotic practitioner, teacher, and guide. Known for her incisive insight and generous field of permission, Alicia empowers her students to be fully and completely themselves. And as a personal plug, Alicia has done this for me many, many times in just helping me remember who I am and that the power that I have. And also, she does it with such a humor at navigating my own self-doubt and like beating myself up that it just seems kind of silly. So in Alicia's presence, you're kind of like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. Oh yeah, I don't need to do that to myself. And it just opens the door for you to really be who you are. So I'm very pleased to welcome my friend Alicia.
Thank you, Yia, for that generous introduction. I appreciate it so much. My sister, Yia Vang. Hi, everybody. Welcome to those of you who come on regularly, and hello to any of you who are tuning in for the first time. It is a pleasure to be one of the members of One Taste, the Eros platform here that is continuing to do the 1 o'clock Eros talk calls. It's always a great opportunity to share all that I've learned and all that I've been given. So I deeply appreciate that. So I was thinking about what would I talk about this week, and something came to mind. So I think a lot about a few things. I think a lot about community. I think a lot about my relationship to my power. I think a lot about our primary practice, orgasmic meditation, and there is a way that we also, here within this work, we really look at things through the lens of Eros. And I want to talk a little bit about that today, specifically starting off with a quote that you may hear sometimes in some of our work. We refer to a specific quote that is the gist of it is that the next Buddha will be a Sangha. And so that's obviously, referencing Buddhism. And we do, as part of what we do here at the platform and One Taste and our community here, we do quite a bit of Buddhist practice as well. It's definitely become quite a beautiful and deep and rich complement to our own practice and the sutras and everything that we do. So we're quite steeped in it. And I think that the quote that the next Buddha will be a Sangha is especially appropriate. And I think it's, so I want to look at that through the lens of Eros. And as Yia said, I want to look at that what does that mean in the lens of Eros, and how does that relate to what we do every day as a community, as a Sangha, and also with the own practice? I have been practicing orgasmic meditation for quite a long time, and so I tend to see things through the referent of Om. The Om practice is a a practice where two people lie down. One person contributes a clitoris, the other person contributes a stroking finger, and in a timed, very intentional container, one person has their clitoris, their genitals stroked, and both people focus on the sensation that arises there. And it is truly a meditation. That's why we call it that. And there is a great deal of benefit. We talk about it quite a bit. And at a very simple but deep level, orgasmic meditation allows two people to get into deep felt resonance together. And it also allows them to do that at the very source, deep, body-based level of the arousal channel, where arousal and the erotic impulse lives in the body. And it's like our primary baseline physical referent that does happen in the body. And I'll speak about my own experience that having done the practice for quite a few years now, it has given me the ability to be in felt connection in more parts of my life. Some of you guys know my story, but really I wanted to have more access to my power as a woman. And that includes my sexuality, that includes the potency of being in my body. And the OM practice, gives me an opportunity to access that, open it, build relationship with it, and be more sunken into the felt experience of my body, and then be that in the world. And so what does that have to do with the next Buddha, being a Sangha? Well, you start with yourself, and then you start with felt connection to one other person, your practice partner in the practice, and you build that ability to have felt connection. And like I said, my ability to bring that felt awareness out into the world starts to have it be that I'm living in a state that allows me more felt connection with other people. And I know I wanted this. I wanted more access to being able to feel other people, being skillful there, being powerful and powerful in a feminine sense versus a masculine sense. I think that so we talk about a felt network, and a felt network of people is what I would consider to be an erotic Sangha. It's where you're not only you not only believe in the same things, but you're actually living in a way where there's felt connection, there's truth, there's honesty, and you bring it down into the experience of felt resonance in the body. We talk a lot in the sutras about the above and the below, and we talk a lot about the feminine, and we claim, we talk a lot about reclaiming discarded parts of ourselves. In the Eli and I, some of you know Eli block, we taught a wonderful introduction to Om this past weekend. And one of the things that we talk about right at the start of the class is that our work and what we do here on the platform, and in sort of all the things that we do, one of the main central parts of our mission of what we want to do here is reclaim the unlovable parts of who we are, and not only who we are, but other people and the world. And that to me is a feminine concept. It's like the concept of, taking those discarded parts and then saying, okay, if I reclaim these parts of myself, then I actually will be more whole in the truest sense of the word. And that's what we've always been about, and that's what we continue to be about. And so, in our practices here, when you get into the Om nest and you start oming, you start to see the parts of you that you have like pushed away or have felt uncomfortable, or desires. We tend to really minimize or make the erotic impulse small or manage it. Our relationship to, our sexuality, our relationship to our bodies, our relationship to our desires, our relationship to even communicating, what we want, what we don't want. All of those things are beautifully highlighted in the Om practice as you start to open up your body. It's powerful stuff. We intentionally go into sex and desire and the concept of, not only the concept, but the experience of being powerful, and other, charged territories. And we intentionally go into those places so that we can get in there, look at it all, and start to own it and work with it. Some traditions talk about it in the, through the lens of shadow. It's like the shadow parts of myself, like the things that I want that I'm afraid to say, or, my ideas that I have around money or things like that. It's like, shadow just means it's hidden, it's unexplored. And so we want to get in and feel and be with all of those things. Whenever I look at like the sutras or the Om practice, I tend to look at the different ideas that we work with, and I think about them at the level of like, how does this relate to me? Starting with my body first. How does it relate to me, my relationship to my body, my relationship to myself, my power, and like that. And then I think about it at the level of relating. How can I see these ideas play out at the level of relating, with another person, with a partner, with friends. And then it kind of, I then tend to pull the lens out and look at, okay, how do I see this as it shows up in society? How do I see this as it shows up as a whole in our culture? And I think one of the other things that we work with here, one of the other ideas that we work with is really being willing to look at our culture and the state our culture is in, as far as there being a pretty heavy tendency to discard some of these more potent, powerful parts of ourselves. If you are familiar with the Eros Sutras, the volume 1 of the sutras, it's called Principles, and there's an entire section devoted to the above and the below. And to put it very simply, like I said, there's a whole series of sutras that go into it quite fully. But to put it very simply, the above and the below is, and I'm going to talk about it at the level of culture. It's our tendencies to, one really easy way to identify it is, a preference towards the positive, towards staying positive, towards, keeping going, stiff upper lip, and, I don't really, I'm not comfortable looking at jealousy, or, I just want like this nice, tidy life, and, anything that kind of pulls me out of it, I'm not comfortable with, or, we're all happy here and, in this country. And, I don't really want to, veer into looking at any of the more difficult, challenging things that we deal with in this country or in the world. It's preferential towards like, again, at the level of the body, it's preferential towards like living up here. I'm just in my head. I certainly don't need to listen to the impulses of my body at all. In fact, if I get a little bit smaller and a little bit tighter, and I think a little bit harder, and maybe if I study a little bit more, maybe if I get another degree, or maybe if I, do this or that, then everything's going to be great. Meanwhile, there's this whole subterranean terrain of beautiful, potent, impulses in my body that very much are kind of being experienced on a more subtle channel of felt connection. What has one person feel lit up? What has one person feel shut down. It's like all these beautiful, subtle communications. We would call those communications that happen, that are happening in the below, right? You can look at it at the level of society and the level of, when you walk down the street, do you turn your eyes away from someone who's, a destitute person who's asking for money? Do you turn your eyes away? Do you prefer not to look at that? Someone who's down and out, that's a way that we can look at, aspects of our society that are, we would call that, part of the below. Again, this is a really generalized way of talking about it, but it's all the stuff that we don't want to look at, and it's a way that if we kind of amputate ourselves from that, if we try to say, oh, that doesn't touch me, that doesn't impact me. You could, all the pollution in the ocean. Oh, I'm just not going to think about that. That's not affecting me. It's like there's a way that in culture, and I think a lot of people do this with their own beings, with their own selves, they kind of start to like disconnect from the full spectrum of reality that's happening around them. And so you kind of get more, like a little bit tighter, a little bit more disconnected. But the truth of it, and this is where I want to come back to, like the fact that we're all, whether you're in community or not, we're all in this large felt network of experience together on the planet. It does matter. It is part of you. You could be that destitute person. Even the act of shying away from looking at that person has an impact on who you are and your heart and how you feel. And how do we start to actually stay in, open, receptive, felt experience with all of the parts of what the world brings to us on any given, day. We do that. We build that resilience through various practices. Sitting meditation is great. The Om practice does it as well. It does it specifically because it brings you into felt connection with another human being. It cannot be done alone. And at that baseline referent, 15 minutes a day or however often you're able to practice, that baseline referent, you're able to start experiencing your system open, feeling another human being, right? And I know I've experienced this I know I can speak for other people that I've talked to. It's like you start to build resilience with being able to feel more and more and more. You start to listen and be attuned to the erotic impulses in your own body, and you start to soften and you start to, drop down from the mind and sort of the, having it be that you're, there's like an imbalance of, focus in the mind. You start to live more in your body. And this is why, when people sometimes, we'll come to an event, an in-person event that we might have, or meet someone who does, the practice of orgasm meditation, they'd be like, wow, that person, I can really feel them. They feel great. Look at how bright they are. There's something about them that I like. Well, it's because we've softened and, really fostered and rebuilt the relationship between our mind and our body. That's what the Om practice does. It allows you to be a more soft feeling human being and give you the resilience to be that in the world. And it does require that you walk back through all the places where you chose to be disconnected from your genitals or from the erotic impulse, or from all the little places that it's very tempting, society makes it very tempting to discard all those parts of who we are. There are ways that, when women start practicing, they realize, oh gosh, I really shut my voice down. There, you start to see it not only in the nest, but you start to see it in other parts of your life. You go, gosh, I really have sold out on my knowing or what I really wanted to say. And that's a big one for women. And then, the men too, or whomever is doing the stroking, it's like there's ways where there's these realizations about like, gosh, I really sold out on feeling. I've really kind of really come up into my head, and gosh, I've lost so much from doing that. So you walk back through all these places where you've gotten a little bit, too stuck in your head. And, different people come to the practice for different reasons. But then there's usually some version of, I know there's more. I feel like I don't totally have access to all of who I am. And then I would like to kind of thaw out and melt and become a fuller human being. When we do this over time, you do start to feel more. When I walk down the street, I feel the other people, whether I know them or not. And then, one of the sutras talks about, that when you start to soften and when you start to be more fully living, in Eros and in your body, you live in felt connection. And so it becomes more apparent when you are acting in a way that hurts other people. And naturally, because you can feel the people around you, you don't want to hurt them. And so there's this way that, I've experienced this, the practice starts to put right places where we get stuck behind defense mechanisms or just, feeling incompetent or insecure. It starts to melt all those things. And that's, when you talk about all the benefits, it really does ripple out into your life more and more. And that's when you can really start to not only get a sense of, but really see the impact that we have on each other. It's like when I am reclaiming parts of myself that I've tried to shut down, as I reclaim those, I naturally become a more felt receptive human being. And I naturally start to have genuine compassion that's rooted in the body, compassion that is rooted in Eros, where, gosh, I really have empathy for, the spectrum of experience that people have. And then you start to live in more felt connection with whomever is in your life. I am lucky enough to live and be around a Sangha of other people, practicing Om and doing that. But regardless of that, when you start to Om, no matter where you're at and who you practice with, you start to have more felt connection with all of your existing communities. And when we do that, you start to have like a truer, sometimes gentler, sometimes stronger, truer, more honest, more vulnerable way of relating. And it will melt the things that keep us in againstness. This is something that I talked about last week, that there's so much tendency, especially on social media, to be in this intensely polarized state of againstness. And so much of what is communicated is this againstness. Not liking the way these people are doing that, or not liking that politician, or it's very harsh and it's very combative. And I am dubious about just how impactful and helpful all of that dialogue is. I'm extremely skeptical. I think we need to rethink some of our habits on social media. I've said that before. I'm sure I'll say it again. And because when you get in a room with other people who are willing to feel and connect and talk, defenses go down. I think our natural tendency, whether you're this political party or that political party, you get in a room together and you get in a state of felt connection, you find commonality, and some of the againstness starts to melt. And I think about that when I think about Felt Network. There's this great movie. It came out quite some time ago. It came out in the early 2000s. It's called Shortbus. I don't know if anyone here has ever heard of the movie Shortbus, but it is a great movie. Look it up if you want like a very funny, very sexy, very quirky movie. Shortbus is basically about this woman that she is the main character in the movie is this woman who is actually like a couples counselor. She might even be like a couples like sex counselor or something like that. And she's sitting, bored out of her mind, totally distracted, listening to these couples talking bullshit to each other. I don't know if am I allowed to swear? Yeah, I don't know, but they're there's this in this BS like homeostatic, like blah 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 kind of state. Couples like not even having attention on each other, hardly even really talking to each other, just in this state of like complaint and dysfunction. And she's sitting there, she's bored out of her mind. She's like, oh my gosh. And it's like so funny because she's like a couples counselor, right? And so the whole setup of the movie is this woman basically loses it and is like, I can't have an orgasm. And she goes, and she's talking about climax, and we know that orgasm is a lot more than climax, but for the purposes of the movie, she's talking about, that she can't climax. The orgasm is elusive to her. And the fun part about the movie is that she goes on a quest for herself to find her orgasm. Yeah, thanks for putting the link up, Yia. She goes on this quest because she wants it. She's like, this is not right. And it's lovely. It's set in New York City. It's this wonderful, just like this like quest where she goes and like looks in all these different locations, and she goes to like a wild like quirky after hours club, and she goes and she talks to this person, and she meets like a funny dominatrix, and like she goes to all these different spots and all these different locations looking for her orgasm. And it's like so sensational and rich, and is so much humor and approval for all of the weird often discarded parts of ourselves. That's why it's called Shortbus. It's like only the people on the short bus, it's like it's all the people on the short bus, but that's where the good stuff is, right? That's where all the parts that we discard to look right and act right and get the job that we don't even want. That's where all the discarded, wonderful, rich freedom to be and to feel exists, right, in the short bus. And so at the end of the movie, she basically she finds her orgasm. She strokes herself, and she finally starts to light up. She has these epiphanies. She lights up. She starts getting off, and it's this great end of the movie where it's like beautiful. It's the climax of the movie, and she like the whole power grid of New York lights up. And so as soon as she lights up, the whole power grid, it just goes from like building to building to building, and the entire power grid starts to light up. And it's like turn on, and lighting up in her life through this journey of going to all these like odd locations, talking to all these amazing weird people. And I always think of that movie because it's such a great, like, whoever made that movie was like, lighting up, turning on, finding all those spots inside of yourself is what lights you up and is what powers the network. We are a felt network of people. You can't get away from it. One of my favorite people that I love so much that I think about, inspires me a lot, is Jane Goodall. And one of her most famous quotes is that, you make an impact every day. It's not a question of if you want to make an impact or not. She said, you make an impact every day. What do you want to do with it? And so I think about that, right? It's like, again, I could just reference sutra after sutra. There's a sutra about this too, that it's like, we're perpetually in a state of interdependence. We're perpetually in a state of connection. We are a network, not just your friends, not just your family, not just, the people you like versus the people you don't like. There's a larger network. We're on this planet together. We all have an impact, right? So you put trash in the ocean over here, it affects the people across the globe. Like, that's just the truth. You can look away, but it doesn't make it any less true. And so really there's this underlying thing that I hope I can do justice to saying it, but it's like, you know, the work that we're doing here is not only about lighting ourselves up as individuals and doing the work to reclaim those discarded parts of ourselves, but it is about, you know, actually lighting up day after day to the fact that we all have an impact and that we are a network on this planet today. And the more that you light up, just like in the end of that movie, kind of lighting up, and then the lights go on in the city, it's like the more that we do what we need to do in order to stay aware of that and willing to acknowledge it, the more we can actually have an impact. And when I say have an impact, I mean like we can like have an impact, a powerful impact to affect things for the better, you know. And it doesn't happen by just like griping online. I'm sorry. Get off social media, go do something good for yourself, go have a makeout, learn the OM practice, you know, do like a soup kitchen, you know. It doesn't just happen from talking crap online. I'm sorry. It doesn't, you know, it happens by like, you know, feeling, caring, and then feeling it enough to like get up and do something about it. And then that's really where I go when I think about, okay, the next Buddha is a Sangha. It's like, it's a group of people. It's not about pointing to one person and saying, okay, they're responsible. It's not about finding a savior. It's not about, you know, oh, this politician versus that politician. It's about really recognizing that we are a felt network. And that's a lot of what we want to do, you know, with our work at One Taste and on the Eros platform, whether you're, you know, in person with other people or whether you're in our online community. We want to stay awake to those truths. We want to, you know, the erotic path includes all those parts of ourselves, you know, those parts of who we are. It's not weakness. The body is not weakness. You know, the desires of the body, the hungers, the cravings, you know, all the things that we tend to try to discard. Those are parts of our power grid. We've got to work with them. And that's like a central thing, like the strength of the network, the felt network. It's not an abstract thing. It's like a physical experience. It's, you know, it really is. And OM gives you the opportunity to work on your particular way that your system can actually be part of, you know, opening, being soft, feeling, reclaiming those parts of who you are, getting into real communication with the mind and all of our erotic impulses. It's something that just the benefits are endless. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I think about OM a lot, and it's done so much for me. And yeah, you know, we taught a great class last weekend, and we're teaching another one soon on August 23rd. And regardless of where you are in the world, if you're interested in OM, learn more about it, because we, you know, it's the physical thing that helps us, you know, do all the felt things that we want to do. So that's what I have to say today. How about that?
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much, Alicia. I got so much from that talk too. We'll open it up for questions, comments, and discussion. So go ahead and raise your virtual hand, and I'll call on you. For those of you who are on one of our social media platforms, you can put it in the chat, and Luca will go ahead and gather that and send it over to me. We'll go ahead and start with Leah.
Hi there. I'm in an Uber, so I'm not putting video on, but that was so great, Alicia. Thank you. I loved when you were talking about the network, and I loved when you said towards the beginning, like even these little things that we can do, like the way we turn away from someone who's on the street wants money, like that affects us. And it's a very specific question I have, very specifically about that kind of experience where I have that experience a lot, where I'm like, I have so much ambivalence. I have so many like, I'm a naturally compassionate person, and I'm like, this experience will happen where like someone will ask me for money because they can tell, I think they can tell I am. And I'll have all these feelings come up and all these thoughts come up. And then it's like a battle between like, or a conversation between my mind and my body where it's like, of course I want to give and make someone's life better. But there's like, but I've also been scammed. I've also, you know, having people use it on like drugs, and that will get them closer to like a place like it's not in my value system, you know, um, and knowing that, and then also not wanting to like have like create a lifestyle for that. I don't know. It's just there's so many things, and so I'm always just when that situation happens, it's like, and then I can feel the like it affects me, and I don't feel great after those experiences. Sometimes when I give money, or if I don't or do, and so I just wanted to hear what thoughts you had. I was like, maybe I just keep a dollar bill in my pocket, and if I have it, then I give it, and if I don't, then I don't. But yeah, just that whole like trail of feeling that happens after that in like that situation or any situation.
Mm-hmm. But do this for me, Leah, if you can. Give me a specific question, because I get what you're saying, but
Yeah,
give me a question.
I think it's like, how do I know what the most generative thing to do is in a situation where like my natural impulse is to give, but then there are thoughts that like are like that might not actually feel good, or that might not actually be the right thing to do. And then so it might not be the thing that feels good, and then I get kind of locked in action, or like you know, hover over the decision, and then end up feeling bad anyways. So it's like, I guess we can call it classic hovering over action.
Yeah.
Situation.
So you're saying like, how do you know what to do in any given moment in a situation like that?
Yeah.
All right. Here's my thought. Tell me if it lands for you. So I always keep a few dollar bills in my pocket. I try to. And, you know, I'm living in New York City right now. This is, you know, depending on where a person's living in the world, it is, you know, more or less relevant in this particular instance. But I mean, so for me, walking down the street in New York City, it's, I have a very different experience if I walk down the street and I'm in my head. Leah, mute yourself. So I have a very different experience if I'm, in my head versus when I am genuinely sunken into my body, and I'm really in my body, and it's really easy to feel the difference, because it feels like I'm up here. I'm thinking about a lot of different things. I usually don't even have as much attention out, even though you'd think you were more alert, but I find that I tend to be less alert. And so I'm less alert. I'm in my head. I'm thinking, I'm kind of pulled up into my head, out of my body. That's like one experience that I have. Whatever. A lot of us do that a lot of part of the day. And then there's another experience that I have where I just take a couple of deep breaths, and it's literally like I soften down into my body, into my chest, into my lungs. I can feel my body. It tends to be a little bit slower, though I can still move quickly. And I feel less frantic. There's less figuring out. There's less effort. And I feel my body, and I walk down the street while feeling my body. And lo and behold, I actually have a deeper, more potent quality of attention that I put out and that I experience, where there's a real felt attention, and there's more erotic wisdom, you know, when I'm willing to be down into my body. I'm still thinking, I still have my mind, it's still there. And then I'm sunken down into my body. And from there, I have a very different experience walking down the street. And there's more ease, there's more empathy. I tend to make more eye contact where it's like real eye contact. Like it's like, regardless of if I talk to somebody or not, it's like, here we are together in New York. I feel like of all the cities, New York's very diverse. And so you can get that. Here we are. You can get that on the subway real easy. It's that felt like, hey, what's up? Here we are on Manhattan Island. And then from that place, I tend to have more knowing. I tend to have more felt knowing. And, another thing to always remember, Leah, I know you know this, is that the act of giving $1 is, that's for your benefit. The act of circulating, the act of giving, that does something for me. $1 may or may not have that much impact on another human being. And it's none of my business what they do with it or not, but there'll be moments where I feel compelled to give somebody, $1. There's moments I feel compelled to stop and buy somebody a sandwich, and then there's a lot of times where I don't, you know what I mean? But it's about you, yeah, that's what I'll say about that. Thanks for that question, Leah.
Thank you, Alicia. That was wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that answer a lot.
Yeah, and I'll see you in New York very soon.
Yeah, I'll see you in New York.
Thanks, Leah. Next, we'll go to Shannon.
Hello, Alicia. I'll say something else, but first I was gonna comment on what you just said to Leah's question. Like, I was relating to that so deeply because just a couple days ago, I was at the gas station and there was a guy sitting on the sidewalk as I walked in, and he asked if I had any spare change. And I said, let me catch you on the way out. And I had to think about it. I'm like, he's sitting there smoking a cigarette, which I didn't approve of. And I'm like, do I want to give this guy money? He's going to buy cigarettes or something worse, maybe. And I actually did exactly what you said. I was like, oh, I'm doing this for me. It's like, it doesn't matter what he does with the money. Like, it feels good for me to connect with him. And I beamed love at him. And he complimented my dress, and like that exchange, like I think made both of us feel better. And so that's how I navigated that situation. But what earlier in your talk, I was gonna say how much I appreciated what you were saying about reclaiming the unlovable parts. And I thought about that as like, that's a practice for me to do with myself and with others. It's like, what are the unlovable parts I don't want to look at, and how can I love them? And I often find it easier to do with others than I can with myself. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, thanks for both of those reflections, Shannon. I appreciate that a lot. You had me think of, I love what you said, that it's, it's like a shared experience, right? It's like you connect, you beam love, he gave you a compliment, there was a genuine connection. Like that's it. That's it. I have this guy that lives, is a homeless guy in the neighborhood where I live, and I've seen him many, many times. And he always says the same things. He's like, Ma, you gotta buy me a sandwich. It's my birthday. Every single time I see him, it's his birthday. And sometimes I buy him a sandwich and sometimes I don't. And it's, but it's like, he doesn't necessarily think this, but he's my friend now. Like, oh, there's my friend, it's his birthday, and sometimes it's like, sometimes I get him a sandwich. Sometimes I'm like, I was like, I'm not rich. I can't get you something every day, but like, it's just being in felt connection with him as a human being, living his life, doing what he, I'm not going to make, huge statements about the state of homelessness, but like, he's living his life, and I happen to be part of it for a moment, and I'm going to, try to try to laugh and have it be something that, feels good between the both of us. So thanks for that, Shannon. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Shannon. And then we'll go to Patricia. Hi, Patricia.
Hey, hi, Alicia. Hey. And I want to actually thank you, Shannon, for reminding me about the unlovable parts part.
We're felt networks.
That's right, exactly. We're all working together here. Because when I first heard you say it, Alicia, and I've heard it other times, what came to me this time was, oh, they're not unlovable parts. They're unloved parts. So, some part of me thinks they're unlovable, and that part also needs love. It's like they are unloved. And that's where I can create the same network that we're creating out here within myself, within my parts, which, we did that committee exercise in one of the, coaching programs. And I think that there's something about what we're doing now that is an evolution of humanity by loving the shadow parts, by bringing them up. And it's like, one way of saying it is that there are no bad parts. They all have a positive intent. And when I see that, then we're all lovable. So, thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. That's a beautiful piece. It's not that they are unlovable, it's that they're unloved. That is awesome. And thank you for contributing that piece. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Patricia. Any other questions or comments? Go ahead and raise your virtual hand, and then I'll go ahead and put you on. Okay, if there are no more questions, let's go ahead and go to reflection. So a reflection is something that stood out to you or like touched you, either something that Alicia said or any part during the call. Go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll take a few reflections and call it a day. We have one from Dana on the comment. She said, Mr. McDonald said that too. So gorgeous. They all want love.
Thank you, Dana.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have one from social media, and they said, thank you for the talk today. I've been wondering about just the difference between being by myself and being with other people, because sometimes it's too much. And I appreciate hearing your perspective on the having an impact on others.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, that is all we have for today. Thank you guys very much for joining us today. That was a really amazing call. And thank you, Alicia, for just that reminder of, like what it means that it takes all of us, it takes all of us to really be a part of it. And we matter, whether think you're alone or not, we all matter and impact each other. So thank you so much for that. All right, you guys, we will see you on the call tomorrow, same time, same.
Let me say one more time. If you're interested in the practice of orgasmic meditation, we are teaching another Intro to Om class. It's on August 23rd. You can sign up on the platform. The link will be put up. We had a lovely big class of people last weekend, and we're going to keep doing them. It's a great way to get started. And from there's offerings on the platform about really starting or even restarting your practice. If you've Om'd in the past and you are interested in getting started again, you can take the Start Your Om Practice class. And there's lots of offerings, and keep looking out for even more offerings on the platform moving forward, both online and in person. So everyone keep your eyes out for that.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.